and welcome to Jason's Macintosh Museum. I'm Jason, your host and museum curator, I guess you could say. And what we're looking at today is a Macintosh SE from 1987. Now, the Macintosh SE was quite a significant Macintosh model when it came out because it represented the first major upgrade to the compact Macintosh line. Previous Macintosh models, of course, you had the original Macintosh, the 128K, then the 512K, the 512KE, then the Plus, and then the SE came along. But the SE introduced many new features which really enhanced its appeal. And a lot of the features actually have to do with the model name itself, SE, which stands for System Expansion. The SE, for example, was the very first compact Macintosh to feature an internal expansion slot. It was also the first compact Macintosh to use the ADB, Apple Desktop Bus protocol, for its keyboard and mouse. It was also the first compact Macintosh to have the option of a built-in factory-fitted hard disk, and it was also the first compact Macintosh to use a built-in cooling fan, which helps with system reliability, which I'll discuss a little bit later. So let's talk about some of the specifications of the SE. The SE was released in March of 1987 and was discontinued in August of 1989, and it cost $2,900 for the dual floppy version and $3,700 if you wanted an internal 20 megabyte hard disk. It runs at 8 MHz Motorola 68000 CPU, just like all the other compact Macintosh models that came before it. It had 1 megabyte of memory as standard and was expandable up to 4 megabytes. So, at this point, let's have a closer look at it. Here is the front view of the Macintosh SE, and the first thing you may notice is that it looks a little different from other compact Macintosh models that came before, such as the Plus, 512K and 128K. The SE was one of the first Macintoshes to adopt Apple's new design language, which was called, I believe, the Snow White design language. And that pertains to the colour used and the style of the case. In particular, for example, the horizontal cooling vents that you see here are all part of that. But if you put the SE next to an older compact Macintosh such as a Plus, the differences are very apparent. And in fact, I'll go and get a Plus, put it next to the SE so that the differences can be shown. Here we have the SE alongside its predecessor, the Macintosh Plus, and you can probably tell already that the SE is a much newer looking design. It's got the front grille, and it also has the slimline floppy drive slot as well, and on the whole it just looks like a more modern design. But all future Macintoshes, certainly well up into the 1990s, all followed the new design language that was first used on the SE and I believe the Macintosh 2. So let me get the Plus out of the way and we'll continue on with the front view of the SE. Okay, we're back to the SE, looking at the front, and starting from the bottom, we have the traditional brightness control in the bottom left for the CRT brightness. Above that we have the Apple logo, but the actual model name is on the other side, here, Macintosh SE. Just above that we have the built-in floppy drive, which on the SE was the 800K double-sided drive, which was first used on the 512KE and then later on in the Plus. Now the SE could be optioned with either a single floppy drive, twin floppy drives, or the configuration that this system has, which is a single floppy drive plus an internal hard disk. And the hard disk in this case is a 20 megabyte unit. Note that you still have the slot for the second floppy, but when a hard disk is installed, a blanking plate is installed, which also contains the drive indicator LED. So we have the horizontal cooling vents here, and then up above that we have the display, which is the same 9-inch monochrome display that was used on all compact Macintoshes up to the SE, which is 9-inch monochrome with a resolution of 512 by 342. Notice as well, on the SE there is no keyboard connector as you had on the Plus and all the previous models. The SE of course uses the ADB protocol, so the keyboard and mouse connect from the rear. So that's the front view of the SE. Now we'll have a look at the side. Here's the side view of the Macintosh SE. Not much to really talk about here, but you've got the standard air intake vents at the bottom here. The logic board sits just behind here, and over here you would have the reset and interrupt switches, which at the moment are hidden behind the grille, although as with other models of compact Macintosh you could have a small two buttons that would clip onto the outside casing right here that would allow you to control those buttons with the cover installed. Other than that, there's not much there. So that's the side. Now we'll take a look at the back. Here's the rear view of the Macintosh SE. So starting from the top, we have the carry handle up here, and of course we have the 2 screws up the top that you need to remove, or 2 of the 4 screws you need to remove in order to remove the case. Here we have the information label, and it's interesting to note that this particular SE actually details the system configuration on the label itself. Now I don't see this terribly often on old Apple Macintosh computers, but this one actually specifies that it is 1 megabyte memory, 800K drive and a 20SC hard disk. Now I believe this machine has been upgraded, I believe, to 4 megabytes. Not sure, but we'll soon find out when we start it up. But I know that it has the original 800K floppy and the original 20 megabyte stepper motor hard disk. Notice that it's also made in the USA. And we have some other information there. So the power supply is auto-adjusting. Note that on older Macintosh models such as the Plus, focus, on older Macintosh models, I believe the power supplies were either configured for 110 volt or 240 volt. I think starting with the SE they made all the power supplies auto switching. And over here we have one of the features that was first used on the SE, which is a built-in cooling fan. Now this was done primarily to improve system reliability. Originally, it was actually one of the design criteria, I believe, for the original Macintosh, was that it was not to have a cooling fan. And I believe that was done simply to reduce the noise, because given the original Macintosh computers did not have a hard disk, when they were running, provided the floppy drive wasn't operating, they would be totally silent, which is nice, but of course, inside the case, given that you have all of the circuitry controlling the CRT inside, it can get quite hot. Now, originally, older Macintosh models had vents along the bottom and vents on the top that would allow, through convection, would allow the air to circulate through, but it didn't really work that well. And as these older computers aged, especially those that had a lot of use, you would find problems with the CRT circuitry and the power supply circuitry due to overheating. So finally, with the Macintosh SE, they installed a cooling fan, which certainly helped a lot in terms of improving system reliability, although of course it did create more noise, but so did the built-in hard disk in this model, admittedly. So in fact, I think on this the sound of the hard disk drowns out the sound of the fan. So moving on from there, over here we have another first for the SE, which was an expansion slot. This is the cover, of course. The SE, as I mentioned, was the first Macintosh, the first compact Macintosh, to have a built-in expansion slot so that you could add Ethernet cards, video cards, well, all sorts of things really. And this used the SE processor direct slot. But most of the time, if I see an SE with an expansion card in it, it's normally an Ethernet card. The serial number tag down here, security lock there. Power inlet and power switch here. And then moving down from there, we have all the different ports. And here is yet another first for the SE, the use of the Apple, whoops, ooh. My tripod doesn't want to stay in position. There we go. The use of the Apple desktop bus ports. Previous to the SE, the older Macintosh models would use an RJ12 telephone style connector for the keyboard at the front, and they would use a DB9 style connector on the back for the mouse. With the SE, they switched and used the new Apple desktop bus protocol, which was a protocol used for many, many years afterwards. I believe it only stopped, I think, when the iMac first came out in the late 1990s, I believe. So we have two ADB ports here. You can use them for keyboards, mice, and also some other peripherals that you might want to plug in. We have the external floppy port here. We have the external SCSI port here. Printer and modem ports, and audio out. So that is the rear view of the Macintosh SE. So at this point, we'll take it apart and have a look inside. And I should mention quickly, the procedure for taking the SE apart is very similar to all the other compact Macintosh models. You have two T15 Torx screws up here, tucked in behind the carry handle, and you have two more, one here and one over here. Once you remove them, it's simply a matter of prying the two halves of the case apart, although I generally find that giving it a good tap is enough to loosen the back cover, and the back cover can be removed. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Here's the inside view of the Macintosh SE. Starting from the bottom, we have the logic board down here that occupies the entire bottom area of the case. Just above that, we have the floppy disk that sits in this little metal cage here. And above that, we have the internal hard disk. Now, this, of course, is a SCSI hard disk, and it is, in fact, the original 20 megabyte, I think it's a Rodyme hard disk that was installed with the machine. And it's actually a stepper motor. It uses a stepper motor to control the head rather than a voice coil. And you can actually see the stepper motor up here in the corner. So over here we have the power supply, and it's worth noting that the SE, I believe, was the first model of Macintosh to have a modular power supply. I thought it was in fact the SE30, but in fact the SE was, as you can see, has it as well. Previous models, such as the Plus, had the power supply circuitry built into the analog board, which meant that the power supply was not replaceable as a unit. What they have now done, as you can see, is the power supply is a separate module that can be replaced independently of the analog board, which is quite nice, and it's actually made by Sony, as you can see. Whoops, focus. This camera doesn't want to focus. There we are. Moving up from there, we have the built-in cooling fan. And then we have the analog board here, which contains all the components required to drive the CRT. There's the flyback transformer, and we have the CRT itself. So what I'll now do is I'll now switch to my other camera and have an alternate look at the inside. So here's an alternate view of the inside of the Macintosh SE. We have the cover over the analog board here, and we have the various adjustments for the screen. We've got width here, focus and brightness cutoff here, height here. I think that's the only adjustments that we have. Yes. So let's go around to the other side and have a look here. So we've got the logic board sitting down here, and we'll have a closer look at that in a moment. floppy drive sitting just in here, hard disk sitting on top. So there's the old hard disk. So it's a SCSI hard disk. It has a 50-pin SCSI connector, and the old stepper motor there. We've got the power supply unit. Oh, there we are. So you can see it's, oh, focus. So you can see it's not terribly powerful, but, well, it probably doesn't need to be. So that's the power supply unit there. Then we have the SCSI cables there. We've got the CRT here, and deflection yoke. And then a cooling fan there. A flyback transformer and some other components in there. Oh, there's the power supply connector, I believe, that goes from the analog board to the logic board. Okay, so that's the inside of the Macintosh SE. What I'll now do is I'll reassemble the machine. No, before I do that, we'll look at the logic board, of course. So I'll take the logic board out and we'll have a quick look at that. Now, as always, I'll give you a quick guide on how to remove the logic board out of a Macintosh SE. And the first thing you have to do is to, once you've removed the back cover, is to unplug all the connectors from the logic board. And there are several. Here we've got the floppy drive connector sitting there. We've got the hard disk. We've got the hard disk connector there. And actually, if your SE has two floppies, there'd be a second floppy drive connected to that plug there. And then just behind, it's a bit hard to see. It's very hard to see. We have the power supply connector, which actually is sitting just behind. Oh, you can see it just in there. If the camera's going to focus, sitting just in there. Once they're all unplugged, you can then go ahead, take off this protective cover, if yours has one, and then you can slide the board up just far enough to clear these tabs, and then swing the board out of the way. Just something else to add to that procedure. Once you free the board, you don't want to pull it back too far because you have the speaker connector here, which is actually connected here. So you need to unplug that before you remove the board completely. Here we have the logic board out of the Macintosh SE. So starting from the bottom, we have the memory expansion slots. So just like the Macintosh Plus, the SE has four 30-pin SIM slots for memory expansion, and these ones I believe are 1 megabyte SIMs that gives you a total capacity of 4 megabytes, which is as much as you can put into a Macintosh SE. So moving up from there, we have, looks like a Glue Logic chip here. Here's the main CPU, Motorola 68000 running at 8 megahertz. And over here on the right we have the expansion slot. So this is the SE processor direct slot, just here for expansion cards. Up here we have various other chips, not sure what that is, that could be for the serial port. Clock crystal there, we've got the, which one that looks like a, don't know what that, that's probably the floppy controller chip, and we've got the two ROM chips here. I'm not sure what that is, could also be for the serial port. What else do we have up here? I believe we have, I think they may be the sound chips, I'm not sure. This is where the battery would normally go. It's not there, as you can see, because I've actually removed it, but the SE would normally have a 3.6 volt lithium battery actually soldered directly to the board. Now I have to admit, in any Macintosh I come across, I always take the batteries out, because if you leave them in there long enough, they will often leak and destroy the board. So that's why there's no battery there. Speaker connector there, power supply connector here. what else? Not much else there. We've got the two floppy connectors here, because remember that the SE could be optioned with twin internal floppy drives. We've got the SCSI controller and this internal SCSI connector here. And we reset interrupt switches up here. And various ports up here. Okay. Oops, this tripod's not cooperating. Okay, so there is the logic board out of the Macintosh SE. So what I'll now do is I'll now reassemble the system and we'll start it up. Okay, we now have a keyboard and mouse hooked up to the Macintosh SE, and we're using the normal keyboard and mouse that would have come with the machine. We have the Apple keyboard 2, I believe it is, here. And we also have the Macintosh ADB mouse, or the Apple ADB mouse, I think it is. So at this point, let's go ahead and start it up. If you heard the sound of the stepper motor there initializing. So there we are, it's already started up. So what we'll do now is get a closer look and we'll try some software. Okay, so the Macintosh SE has started up, so let's have a look at it. First of all, what version of system are we running? 6.0.8. Okay, so we have 4 megabytes of memory. So in fact, we could run System 7 on this, but this one actually has System 6, which admittedly on a Macintosh running a 68,000 CPU like this one, System 7 can be a little slow, so System 6 is probably a better way to go. So let's see, what have we got? Alarm clock. Calculator? Yeah, it's a calculator. Not much to say there. Control panel. Oh, we've got a full control panel here. Good, so we've got a speaker volume. All the other settings, keyboard. Mouse. Tracking speed. I'll turn that up a bit. Sound. Oh, we've got our sounds. And startup device. So that's about it for the control panel. Let's have a look. Now I believe there's some software on this already, so I have put, oh I have, good. I've put some software on this already that I have. So let's try a few of them. First of all, we'll try the print shop. I used to use this a long time ago, but I had the DOS version. I never used it on a Mac, so let's see how it goes here. Oh, there we are. Oh, that's right, you can make greeting cards, letterheads, banners and signs. Oh yes, okay, let's make a banner. It's a good banner. What are these? Oh, do you? I think you have to press the key. Oh. Can we? Oh, okay. Select graphics. Can add graphics? Can we? Oh, look at that. Well, of course, is there a computer? No. It's a bit disappointing. If I had a printer, I'd print that out. That's the different fonts. Ooh. That's the Apple font everybody knows. Chicago. Oh, okay, that's the print shop. Let's have a look at something else. SoftPC, that's right. SoftPC was an early PC emulation, software emulation package for the Mac, so you could actually run very basic DOS applications on a Mac. So let's run this. Oh, there it goes. It is a little slow. Considering it's running on an 8 MHz 68000, I'm not really surprised. It's having to emulate the an x86 CPU. Oh, okay, let's see what we've got. It's slow, but it works. What's in the Insignia directory? Probably some supporting software. Not much else on this, but I have a feeling it probably can't run DOS graphics applications. It can probably only run text applications, so it's probably not that useful. But we can set up the ports, disks, invert screen. Oh, that's better. Oh, it might be. How does it look on the camera? Yeah, it looks better on the camera. But having said that, I think there's not much more we can really do with this. So let's quit out of there and try something else. Claris works, Cricket Graph. Let's do some games. Let's play some games. What have we got here? Air hockey. Oh, air hockey. This should be fun. Right, so do you... Oh, here we go. Oh, okay, that's how you do... Oh! Ah! Ooh. Ah! What? I'm not very good at this. Ah! Oh! I need some practice. I'm not very good at this game, as you can probably tell. Okay, I think that's enough of that. It's obvious that I'm not good at air hockey. Billiards. 1985. Huh. Okay, so... Billiards... Oh, that's better. Now, how do you line up a shot? The sounds aren't very convincing, I have to say. But it works. Let's take another shot. Can't tell what I'm supposed to be aiming for. We'll try that. Oops! Oh, it's billiards. Get out of that. 3D checkers. Let's see. Shareware. Ah, okay, so I haven't played checkers in a very long time. Very long time. Oh, okay, it's two play. Right, computer is white. There we go. Is it? Oh. That. I think you get the idea. Okay, well I think that's about all. So let's shut down. Now switch off your Macintosh safely. You need the hard drive spinning down, it's got quite a lot of inertia to it. So that was the Apple Macintosh SE from 1987. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.